If you're gonna go into Iran, you better have a plan.
Hello and welcome to another Dead Pixel, where a podcast about video games, anime, entertainment, life, a little bit of everything in between. I'm your host, as always, Joe, and with me, the gentleman who will teach you how to vote via mail, remotely, false identities, and also, 3 times in person. Nick, how you doing, Nick?
You forgot to add allegedly. Uh, you can't. I'm not gonna sue you this time. But I am suing everybody else that is not saying allegedly at the end of that. Um, I I did have some training on how to mail letters efficiently and effectively. But yeah, that's the extent of it. And my lawyer and I will have our day in court, and I will be exonerated. Uh, um, yeah.
It helps that Nick has some family members also named Nick who may or may not be minors, but he's like, so long as the mail-in ballot goes in, he'll just vote on their behalf. So
Yeah, yeah. That's I don't even know what to say to that. They're minors, like ER or OR.
there was a funny like subtitle thing going with a press junket for our current president, and he was visiting a mining facility.
Okay.
And so when he said minors, the subtitles populated with OR. Then you saw it delete in real time and then reprint out correctly.
That's funny. That's funny. Oh, I noticed that the whitest kids you know skit about Iran popped back up.
Oh, Moon Bears. Moon
The
Bears,
moon
yes.
bears, yeah, the moon bears. I was like, this is timely. I think that they actually reposted it. They actually cut it out and reposted it, and pretty perfect. That they already had that skit ready to go. You gotta give them props for seeing the future there.
Yeah, it stays relevant every handful of years, just by coincidence. But yes. All right.
Uh,
So if you don't know what we're talking about, whitest kids you know, look them up on the internet. And there's the Moon Bear skit. I think that's what it's called. It's pretty funny. All right. Well, yeah. Why don't we just jump right into what we've been playing? We have a few things to talk about. We got the Try Marathon, that server slam as they called it. Now it's officially out though. Nick, what are your thoughts, bro?
yeah, so you and I played this game. I played the server slam. Um, and yeah, there is a yeah. Okay, so I guess the game itself, if you're not familiar with what Marathon is, it's a PvPvE uh, extraction shooter. So you are playing really. First of all, you typically run into AI bots, whatever, in the environment that you have to shoot at. First, or you have to contend with first, and then later on is when you kind of tend to run into other players, I guess, as the map shrinks or what, however the computer works it out. But yeah, so you're getting loot and you're trying to extract out. You lose everything that isn't nailed down pretty much in terms of loot if you die, which is a bit frustrating. I'll be honest. But I guess we can talk about a bit about, or I can talk about what I'm seeing around the internet in terms of what people think of this game. But for my own personal take on it, I mean, I really liked it. I thought it was. I mean, I didn't love it, but I really liked it. I liked the aesthetic quite a bit, and I thought the shooting was really good. Very very like tight, clean shooting. The movement is pretty good. And like all that stuff is like as like a the base of the game is pretty all right. I'm not really a big time shooter though. I'm not really a big time extraction shooter person. I haven't played like a million of them. So as in terms of the nuances, I couldn't tell you how good or bad this one really is. Um, but I did find it to be very difficult. I don't know if that was by design or if it's going to get changed around or whatever. I mean, we like it was, technically kind of the beta that we played, so not really totally done game maybe in some ways. But yeah, I am on the fence. I am like pretty close to thinking about actually buying this game for $40. There's some other games in the way of me, playing first, so I don't really want to jump out to it just yet. But I do find myself thinking about it, being like, yeah, I kind of would like to jump back in and like play a little bit of it. But that's kind of the extent of my feelings on it, Joe. How about you?
Yeah, so I agree with you on the fact that I like the visuals, the aesthetic, the kind of the vibe they're going for, and I wish they have more story content. I'm not sure how that's going to play out as the game progresses,
Yeah,
uh, and I'm not that big of a fan of just having random uh, people thrown in that just can murk you without and then
because
you
they
lose all
always
your
do.
stuff.
Because you are
Yep.
always the one to die.
And yeah, it's just there's a reason why I don't load my stuff out kitted too well, because I would like to keep my good gear. But when you die and you lose everything like a survival game, it's not my cup of tea. I
Yeah,
know it kind of
if I
the
could
art. Yeah,
if I could recount the story really quickly of your last game with me, is that I think we played a couple and we
we
did.
played like for about 2 hours, almost 2 hours
We
at this
play, yeah,
point.
okay. So we played quite a few then, and we got to going, and we had a good run, and then we just got murked, and we lost. Like we had because we built up some gear, a little bit of gear, and we got murked, and we lost everything, and it was getting a little bit on in the evening, not too late, but you're like, yeah, I think I'm out. You're just like, yeah, I don't want to do this again. This is just too much.
I mean, it was at this point, like the thing is, we got kicked real early too. It was like
Oh
within the
yeah.
first 5 minutes of the match. So it was just like, yep, no, I'm done. Yeah, I finally decided to put in some decent stuff to try to make more successful runs. Now, a lot of people like that. These kind of games. So like Arc Raiders is kind of what this is kind of closest to, I think, in a lot of ways.
It's it's some people think that's why they had to hold release until March because Arc Raiders came out like in what December or something like that and was a big hit.
And this is officially released as of yesterday for our recording right now. And yeah, I think that if they do have some good story content, I would be willing to come back around on this. I kind of wish they just changed the loading screens a little bit, because every time we load it in for a new match,
Yeah.
it's the same like moth creature eating larvae. Like like I don't need to keep on watching this time and time again. Uh, I felt like I'm kind of curious how this game was going to be optimized, or how the loadouts for people, like I want to see it evolve over time, because I felt like everyone was pretty much like paper thin. It didn't take a lot to down you, and
Yeah.
there was always a resource struggle for when you and I played, because we'd often run out of ammo. So I don't know. It's just kind of I was left wanting, I guess is the best way to say it. I prefer, if I wanted to play it, what it does make me do is it makes me rather play a game like Destiny. Go back to something like that. But Destiny's optimized for a full squad and not just two players. And that's the thing, is like, but that actually has legit puzzles, legit like lore if you want it there. And this will probably have that in the future, but at this current rendition, I'm not too hung up on it to try to go back in. There's plenty of other things on my brain, so I think I walked away with this less excited than you.
I-
I'm not like I said, it's still there's still a lot there, and if you like these kind of games, it's for sure. Uh, if they ever come out with a campaign, I'll treat it like a Call of Duty game. I'll play the hell out of the campaign and just avoid the multiplayer. So that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, man, if they ever did come out with a campaign, that'd be pretty sick. even if it wasn't all that great, it would just the on kind of the what they have built on so far, they could make something, just extrapolating from that could be pretty good. Yeah, I'm a bit of a sucker for cyberpunk stuff, admittedly. So this kind of is a little bit up my alley in that way. And then like the aesthetic, which I am gonna. This isn't really like news, so I'm gonna kind of um, kind of talk about it. It's at least not current news really, but I've been seeing kind of quite a bit of hate for Marathon and some other games that we'll talk about later. Um, and I remembered that there was like the whole art theft thing that happened not quite a year ago, and that really blew up in Bungie's face. And they basically they they settled up with the artist, and people assume that they paid the artist and also paid them to keep their mouth shut, going forward. But like at the time, I was like, okay, so they like borrowed one picture or somebody left in some like reference material, and then it got used in the game, and so I kind of just had left it from that point. But after following up on it here recently, no, it was a little bit more serious than that. They kind of took the whole design aesthetic wholesale from the artist. Like the artist was anti-real, um, and they had really just kind of ripped off the whole design aesthetic. So it did look pretty bad. I don't think it was intentional. It doesn't seem to be intentional, just from my kind of intuition on the matter. But it was definitely not a good look, and so it just kind of it has kind of left a kind of a bad taste in people's mouths. It's left a bad taste in my mouth just kind of reading about it, being like, where is well, the support for this game seems a little bit thin because of that. People are talking about, concurrent player numbers already, and how it's dropped down to as low as like 30,000. It's hovering around 50,000 right now. So it's like that's like the core of my hesitancy for this game. I don't really care so much about the art stuff because it seems like they got that settled. I do kind of like the game more or less. That there are problems with it that I have that we've kind of already talked about a bit. But my main concern is like, if I buy this game for $40, is it going to exist in 6 months? Am I going to be, or even 2 months? And with people being kind of shaky as it is, it makes me kind of hesitant to do that. And so if I'm hesitant, other people are hesitant. It's like, is this game just going to get killed because everyone is like afraid to buy it because they're afraid that the game may not be around in a while. So it's it's a concern. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's just kind of sad that this game had to end up in this state of affairs.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what the demand is for a game like this, especially with since um, Arc, the new rendition of Arc came out, and people seem to really like that. For Arc Raiders, I think that I don't know. It's really hard to be in this. We've been seeing it time and time again. Uh, any of these kind of games come out, and if you don't make it really big right out the gate, you crash and burn real quick. And people have less. The companies have less time to try to fix it, and it's easier for them just to cut their losses. Uh,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
I hope that that's not the case. I hope that they can really stick to it, and I hope that because you don't want to see people lose their jobs. You want to see the
no.
company strive and do better. Though it's kind of weird because Bungie has been in this state where it's a weird state of limbo where they like a shadow of what they used to be. They're not as great as we remember in the heyday,
Mhm.
and so you kind of need them to succeed, especially in the this whole first person space because they do shooting really well.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that's the thing is like the groundwork is there. They do the shooting really well. It feels good to play the game, at least moment to moment, if maybe not getting like just kicked in the head at the end. Um, but like all that stuff feels good. One thing that this game does have going for it is that um, Bungie is owned by Sony. So so Sony backing this game, they hopefully, this isn't like Concord level, which is another Sony property, but like this isn't like a Concord level failure. At least it doesn't appear to be that right out the gate. Um, so as long as they can kind of survive for a while, limp along, then I do think this game is probably going to get support, and over the next year or two is going to be um, continually made better and better, and become a, because I think Sony wants it to be a cash cow for them. They want more money printers, like like the like Call of Duty and stuff like that. They kind of want that. They kind of need that, and yeah. So that's what it has, going for it, is that maybe Sony won't give up on it because they just can't afford to. But yeah, we'll keep.
Can't afford to because Sony spent $3.6 billion on it, and
Oh yeah,
though though they did recently close, like close down, was it Blue Point? And granted, they didn't have that kind of money in Blue Point, and Blue Point was a more of a specialty studio, but they're not, like due to all the news and publicity Microsoft gets, we kind of forget how Sony also closes studios and closes, and shutters teams left and right too. So
yeah. I mean
eh,
that is true, and it's like, man, could you imagine if Bungie just like went under because of this game? Like that would be kind of from like Halo to Marathon. Wow, just um that would just be awful. But like, wasn't like Marathon like one of their early games, or did they just buy
Marathon was no Marathon was like one of the first person shooters they came out with. This is pre Halo, and it
94? Yeah.
was yeah, it was a neat game. And so when they first announced Marathon coming back, I'm like, oh great, they're gonna kind of reimagine and revitalize this, and like, nope, we're doing multiplayer. I'm like, son of a gun. All right, not my cup of tea, but whatever. Uh,
It's where the money is. There's just no way around it in terms of
they
like
want well,
shooters.
they want a new Destiny, right? They
Yeah.
want something new and fresh for this current generation, and you know, I understand, but at the same time, it's Destiny's time has come and gone, and I'm not really sure what the next big multiplayer hotness is going to be. So, because you're looking to something, you're trying to replace the Fortnites, you're trying to replace, PUBG, like those kind of, something to compete with Warzone. You need something that can constantly generate them more money. Uh, that's a really hard thing to do. And Sony, being the I don't know, single player experience that they are, I think they're just better off using Bungie's talents to make a really good first person shooter with a good story, good game mechanics, and then building off a solid multiplayer experience.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. I mean,
kind of my
it's like if like the engine is there and stuff like that, it's like, why couldn't you just, I mean, make a small game, like break off a branch of the team, spend some resources, make a small game, garner some goodwill, maybe. And then if you get something that catches fire, then like, oh, the small game that you guys supported, we're going to turn it into a full, cash cow now, a slot machine now. At least, you'd have a lot of people there, at the beginning, and you wouldn't, have, you would have kind of tested the concept. I think the one moral of the story, though, is like, for the love of God, reverse image search before you hit send on the design. Like, just whenever you get it going and you get everything set up and you go, okay, we have it ready, we have like things in place, we kind of know what we're going to do, before we like hit send on this and start advertising, just reverse image search, and you could save yourself like, wait, this looks exactly like this lady's stuff. um uh you know like, maybe we should rethink this. That's Anyway, that's all I got to say on the matter.
all right. Well, let's see. Since since then, we've also been able to go ahead and get some hands-on time with Resident Evil Requiem. So this is the latest and greatest from Capcom. Uh, probably on pace to be their best selling Resident Evil game, which is a good sign considering the fact that the last handful of games have been their remakes, and this kind of falls in the same universe and vein of their remakes. I don't really know how much of it falls in line with, uh, say six,
Mm.
uh, 5 or 6. So yeah, this you haven't played a Resident Evil game in a while, so I was kind of curious. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I played a little bit of Resident Evil 1, and I played a lot more of OG Resident Evil 2. Um, and I played a little bit of of 5, oh, and 8 as well, a good little bit of 8. Um, but this is definitely the one that I probably got the furthest into overall, because I am a big old scaredy cat, and so it's been tough for me to play a legit scary games like this. But I'm about 10 hours in. I am almost certainly past the halfway point, and I believe that I'm in like Act Three. Whatever the back third of the game is. Um, and Bro, this game's good, dude. Like, like it's a good game. I think the only place that I could knock it off of the 10 spot, like a 10.0 spot, is the story. And that's not saying the story is bad. It's just like not like the story is not like gonna change your life or anything. And that is like probably the worst thing I could say about this game. Um, I mean, so, you know, I'm not like a Resident Evil connoisseur or anything, but I really like this game a lot. My current rating of the game is sitting at like a 9.0. We'll see if it can jump up to like a 9.5. But barring a Death Stranding 2 like collapse at the end, I don't think there's any way I could give this less than a 9. It's just good. It's a lot of the same stuff that you've seen, I think, throughout other Resident Evils, same sort of trappings, but but like the mysteries are good, the horror is good, the puzzles, getting from room to room, place to place. Wait, I need to do this now. Wait, I got to go back over here. Like running you back and forth without it being tedious, like without it being like too much and being like, oh, I've been here like too much. And like I haven't found any part of it to be too difficult. I've died. I think there's probably one place where I've died like twice before being able to move on. Um, but it's a good game. It's just it's a really good game, and I'm looking forward to you finishing it and me finishing it and us kind of being able to have a bit of a deep dive on it, because it's going to be on the short list for game of the year. Like, it's probably going to lose some points because it's came out so early in the year, but and also it's GTA 6 year. But it's definitely going to be on the short list for me for game of the year.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah,
Knock
so
on
for
wood.
me,
Knock
I
on wood. Knock on wood. But yeah.
yeah. So I think for me, I hadn't finished Village. Playing that, I was playing that one in VR, and then just stuff happened. But I really like Village a lot. I think I was at the third, like the warehouse facility is where I left off. So I was like the third boss. And as far as the remakes, RE2 remake and RE3 remake, I went ahead. I played those extensively. I got the platinums on both of those,
Mhm.
and the platinums on those were a little more on the annoying side for me, but uh, just ended up following. I ended up following a guide on those ones just because I'm like, dude, this is way harder than I expected. But I really enjoy those games a lot. And 3 gets a lot of flack for not being, quite as game changing as 2 was.
Mhm.
Um, turns out that I'm not the biggest fan of having a constant like patrolling stalker character in the games. Um, right now, I'm just getting over being sick, so I hadn't had got to put a lot into Requiem. I put a handful of hours in. So just the care facility in the beginning, still at, like at the pretty much right there at the tail end. So playing as Grace, I thought like the fact that you can go ahead and take out their stalker characters really early on was really nice. It was a nice touch. The chef and Chunk, the fact that you can kill them pretty quick. Uh,
I didn't know that.
and yeah, so you can either it's like I'm playing on standard classic. I should ask you what are you playing on right now?
I'm playing on modern, but the
Okay,
standard modern. Yeah.
all right, yeah. So the I looked beforehand, and apparently standard classic has earns you a few extra whatever CP or whatever points upon completion, which then helps you buy more things for your upgraded runs later on,
Okay.
which is pretty standard for you earn the credits and points to buy infinite ammo or buy special weapons, stuff like that. Because chances are I am going to probably end up platinum this, so I'm going ahead on how I always play these first games. My first playthrough is always on default difficulty, and I take my time, play it really thorough, try to find everything the first time around. I try not to use any guides or anything like that too much in the beginning, and then uh, when I try to do the later runs, I'll try to do like the speed runs or the higher difficulty, and depending on what the game lets you do for those, if you let uh, and what the trophies are, I'll play by their rules because I think one of the ones with Resident Evil 2 was like you can only save like up to like 4 times in the hardest difficulty setting,
Well,
and so that really made you uh, pick and choose the right spots, and it also challenges you to based off of like I'm not very good with a knife back then, so like to play some of the fights with just the knife like you're supposed to. That's what everyone like says, but I'm like, no, dude, I'm not very good at this. So it took me a few tries, but then it means you have to, if you don't have a good safe spot, you have to play a bit more. So it's a little bit more on the line. Uh, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this one so far. It took two, I think it takes two Requiem shots to kill the chef. Apparently, it takes um, it takes like an injector. If you do the injector on the chef, it's only one. Apparently, I looked it up later, and then it's I actually saved up all my injectors for Chunk, and it takes three to kill Chunk.
oh well.
Um, so it actually that one was actually stupid easy, I found. I'm like, I was actually really disappointed because I quickly ran and hid, and then he trapped me in the first room on top of the stairwell. Slight spoiler, but nothing too much. And then I just ran to the second door room when you go down the stairs, and then I was just able to wait him out as he starts to walk away because I had saved up enough items because I play very frugally. And then I just turn around, stabbed him. Then he turns back around. I run back into the room. Do that. Mouse my way out a couple times, and then yeah, that was it. I was like, okay, but eliminating them now was that moment was like super refreshing because like okay, I am now safe to go through these hallways until you get to the blister heads. And then I'm like, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. This is the Crimson Heads all over again from the original
Yeah.
Resident Evil 1 remake. And I hated the Crimson Heads because I like to clear sweep an entire area and then be like, all right, it's everyone's dead, I'm safe, and I don't have to worry about it. I can run through. And then when those things came back, I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And that's where ammo became a real big problem for me.
So
So yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you're careful, so like because I'm a scaredy cat, I actually am with Grace. I am pretty OP right now. Like I have way I have like way more items than I can really possibly use unless I just do stupid stuff. Um and 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 so like if you're playing it like that, it might actually be a little bit if you're playing it like that, it might actually be a little bit too easy, but because I'm not particularly great with these kind of games, um I feel like it's kind of even it out for me. But yeah, like I was trying to buy more um handgun ammo and use that, and I think I'm pretty much in the camp of using the injectors. I think that they are really like they're not. you don't want to be willy-nilly with them because it is, one will kill one zombie. But the thing about the injectors is that one will get rid of one zombie and you won't have to worry about them as blister heads. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be strategic with it. I'm always going to save some injectors and have some in my back pocket. But if I have like 3 injectors and it's like a main thoroughfare when I'm going to have to run back and forth a lot, I'm just going to go ahead and get this zombie with an injector so I don't have to worry about it anymore. And it's not too hard to like kind of figure out as you're like looking at the map. I do look at the map on this game a lot. But something that they do that I think is a really great quality of life little piece is that like let's say you go into a room, let's say you go into like a file room, there's a bunch of shelves and stuff, and you pick up a bunch of items and stuff, and then you go to leave, and if you'll check your map, you'll see any items that you missed as long as your character has technically like been in the proximity or laid eyes on them, on the item. Even if you the player missed it, it will mark that on the map so that maybe you leave the room and you go on and you check the map again. Oh, you'll be like, oh, well, there was some bullets there that I missed, or there was like a blood section that I missed, and so that's kind of cool. I definitely am thanking the devs for doing that. But yeah, like Leon's, you probably haven't, if you're where I think you are, you probably haven't played too many of Leon's parts, have you?
Yeah, Leon's pretty OP though. I mean, it's like I haven't gotten, like I know later on, I know in the second section of the story, the game, after you leave the center, you end up going to like back to Raccoon City and stuff like that. Where I do know that much, but it's just uh, Leon early on, man. I'm well, I don't know. I'm gonna blame it on me being sick, but man, did I die a lot when the first time I played as Leon in the against the chainsaw guy, because for some reason I was just not shooting very well, and I took a lot of hits, so it took me a while to get used to. And then the chainsaw physics, like waiting for the thing to stop
No, I
spinning
do remember
all the
that.
time to pick up. I ended up dying like I don't know a dozen times, and it's just like or I'd restart. Like I was like, nope, this is suboptimal because I'm already like out of a lot of my ammo or something like that. I was playing very poorly,
Yeah.
and I was just like, man,
I actually need to revise one of my earlier statements. Yeah, I don't think I died a dozen times, but I definitely died probably 4 or 5 times to that section. I do remember that section, and yeah, that was like that for something about that section is really tough. I know I died a couple times to the chainsaw when it was on the ground. Like that chainsaw will like the whoever's holding it, if they fall, then the chainsaw will just run and it will run at you and it'll just slice up your feet and you'll take damage and you can't really stop it. It's that is a kind of a weird section. I'll say that is a odd
it's
one.
I think it's actually meant for you to use your Requiem gun,
Mm.
because that's exactly how like eventually I'm like I didn't even think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, why don't I just use this? And I did. I backed up, took out 3, like you got a trophy for taking 3 at once,
Oh wow, nice.
and yeah, I mean, once you like, I used that. I tried conserving that ammo, and then it turns out it didn't matter because uh, a cutscene happens. Uh, you go through a bunch of ammo, and then like, wait, I shouldn't have had. Like, I counted the shots. I'm like, that's more ammo than I had. But when and then he hands it over, and then there's still a single shot left. I'm like, dang it. So it didn't matter if how frugal I was with it, because it due to cutscene magic. So
They kind of they do that so that you're stuck in grace mode essentially. Like a grace like I guess the thing I wanted to talk about though with like Leon Kennedy sections versus Grace's sections is they are really like Capcom has really done something kind of genius here where they have figured out the balance between horror and action, and like Leon Kennedy's stuff being in third person and being like just Kingsman, that scene in Kingsman where he's like in the church and just like taking all those people out, like it's like that. I mean, like when you're Leon and when you're Grace, it's like Alien Isolation. You're just running around, trying not to die by like any and everything that could kill you. Um, so they have done a really good job on threading that needle and having two sides of the gameplay. Them recommending, hey, play Grace's section first person, play Leon's section third person, um, is kind of crazy. Like, I mean, it's not totally crazy, but it's definitely unorthodox. You don't usually want to dictate to the player how they play, but you know, this was very well. That was a good decision. I mean, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have just played it natural because that's how I do things. In games, I try to play them, as quote normal as possible. Uh, but I think that was really a good idea on their part, and it's working really well. The fidelity of the game is nice, and um, they don't belabor anything. Man, it's a good game. I mean, looking forward to finishing it. I think I'm probably taking a bit longer than I'm supposed to. It's supposed to be like a 15-hour game or maybe a little bit more. So I really am probably around halfway, and looking forward to trying to finish that here this weekend.
Yeah, it's so this is the way like I said, because I'm so thorough the way I play. I ended up backtracking to a bunch of rooms where I made a mental note, like there's little vases on on shelves, or like anything that looks kind of glossy, and then I went when I finally got like a knife with Grace, because I burned mine out real quick in the beginning. And so I went back and started breaking them just to find more items, and like sure enough, it actually paid off. So it's just like I was just curious. I'm like, maybe, and like sure enough, there was like, and I'm glad they give you more than enough anti coins than you actually need.
Yeah.
There's a ton of them. So
Um, I actually, I was wondering, did you find the raccoons, like the raccoon figurines? You found several of those, right?
yeah, I found a handful so far.
Have
Yeah.
you? So were you able to break those with a knife?
Um, I've shot mine.
Okay, okay,
Traditionally, like in the previous games from like RE4 and stuff like that, and uh RE2 and 3 remake, or whatever, whenever you have those things, if you are close enough to knife, you usually can.
okay.
Um and it's just, but if you want to save scum, what you do is you shoot it, like if you had saved beforehand, you shoot it, reload, and then it already has it saved as you shot it. um
That's the
so
galaxy
that
brain move right there. Yeah,
I mean,
no,
it
no,
saves your progress, so why waste your ammo?
yeah. I mean, that's yeah. I didn't think of that also because I'm not a dirty cheater player like you. I would
You're the one
never
who
think of.
taught me the word save scumming from your time at XCOM, okay?
Yeah, yeah, for real. So yeah, I would try to stab the raccoon figurines to try to get them, and I would know I was close enough, and it would never really stab. So I was like, okay, I guess I guess they want me to shoot it. They want me to like, I have to actually have a little bit more skin in the game than just finding the thing. They want me to actually expend a resource to actually get this collectible thing. But the reason I didn't want to do that, expend a shot, is because I was really low on ammo. Because before I figured out the injectors, and I was really burning through a lot of ammo, and I was like, dang it, I really don't want to do that. But I would get a little extra, and then I'd go back and get one of the figurines. But yeah, yeah, you're saying like that you were sick, and it's kind of kept you out of the game a bit. Well, I got a little bit of, I think it was food poisoning. That's what I'm gonna kind of go with. And so I got a little bit of food poisoning, but I wasn't, really bedridden or anything. But I also hadn't really realized that it was food poisoning at this point. So I was playing on, I think, some night this past week, and so I eat dinner, and this is when I think I got the food poisoning. And then I go to sit down to play, and I'm playing, and I'm like, okay, this game's kind of scary and stuff. But as I'm playing, my heart is like racing, and I'm like, man, this game is a lot scarier than like that. Like I must just like be having some kind of like attrition thing because like my heart is racing and I just can't really. I just feel like really kind of sweaty and man, this game is like really scary. I don't feel like it's that scary, but it must just be really scary. And like I
And so this ends up with you shatting yourself, right, while you're playing? Like, it's so scary you shat yourself? Is that
no,
it?
no, 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 no. That would actually be a little bit too good of a story, and I wouldn't be telling this story if that were the case. But like, but
So you gotta read in between the lines, okay? So the audience knows that he's now been called out and he really shat himself. Okay.
I'm gonna cut all this. I'm gonna cut all this out of the final cut of the episode. So, no joke, my heart was kind of racing, and I was getting a little bit worried. But I finished playing for the night, and I'm like, okay, I'm turning this game off. And so everything should calm down. And it was at that point that um things did not really calm down and my stomach started to hurt like for real, and I was like, oh okay, I guess I must have some kind of food poisoning. But it was pretty touch and go there for a little while, just being very like convinced, like I was being like gaslit slash convinced in my like psyched out in my brain that this game was like next level scary, and it is pretty scary. There's a good amount of like, I don't usually like jump scares, but this game does them properly where you get kind of jump scared, but it doesn't, it's not cheap. I would say that the good jump scares that are not cheap. So yeah.
Also, if you so choose, you don't have to play the sections in first or third person. You can switch them. So
Yeah.
as Grace is naturally first person. You can change it to third person, and Leon vice versa. If you prefer the first person aspect, you can go ahead and switch him from third to first. But it does give you in the right like mental headspace on how you're going to play your game because Leon is third person, so it feels more action adventure oriented.
Yeah.
And because you're first person with Grace, you're like, okay, now I'm more survival horror, and like this, it works really nicely. The there's a couple neat little touches with it. Like you can do the whole lean. It's like if you're up against cover in first person and you're going to move slightly to the side, your character will lean the camera over
Mm.
with the gun aiming. So I'm like, that's nice. Uh, I saw a little short, someone talking about how Leon, if you quick go from if you pull aim and then fire right away, you'll end up firing closer to your chest like John Wick. So
Oh,
it's a quicker response time instead of having full arm extended while aiming. So
okay.
I thought that was a neat little touch. Yeah, the game's really neat. The fact that Leon has an axe, non-breakable. You got to sharpen it, but still, it's nice to have um, a permanent thing, especially since they've made certain weapons like that, expendable, which I wasn't the biggest fan of. I mean, it's a neat little push and pull mechanic, um, but then again, I was always a in the OG games. I was just like, all right, zombie on the ground. I'm just going to knife it until like before I even come up to a body, so it doesn't jump scare me. I'm just knifing it right away, and or if every time you knock them down, just straight away, just go straight to knifing. I can't remember what other zombie game that was, the parkour one. But it's like anytime I just drop kick zombies, there's a couple of them where just yeah, if I can, I'm just gonna curb stomp them to death and save my ammo as much as possible. And so to have the idea of okay, you have a knife, it's limited, but it also can save you in a crisis, which is good. Um, I don't know. This game is doing everything right. I think the stories have always been silly.
Mm.
That's just how they are. Especially since you're now going in, theoretically 9 games deep.
Yeah.
Well, 10 maybe. Code Veronica and Zero, so 11 games deep.
I mean,
So
it
yeah.
is actually pretty amazing that the game is not more silly than it is. You know, I think they learned. I mean, if there's one thing that we can kind of praise Capcom for, is that they usually learn from past mistakes. And unlike, other game publishers, they learn from past mistakes. They don't just listen to fans and go, oh, we just have to like knee jerk reaction, like rip out everything and do a bunch of stuff to try to please fans. They legitimately like listen to fans and go, okay, you're right, but you actually don't know what you're talking about. So it's up to us as the developers to figure out how to translate what you want into like reality and like where that actually lands on like the scale. And I think that they've done that, just, with this game, even compared to some of their, uh, you know, their last few games. So yeah, it's got a good rating for me so far.
All right, cool. Well, we'll touch back later on when we actually finish this up. And I'm curious if you're going to put in the if you're going to do any of the new game plus, or technically, I don't think this one has the traditional new game plus, but they do have the unlocks that, and it's always good to go through with some of those crazy the rocket launcher is always the go to, but also infinite ammo and having a bunch of extra weapons to play through. So I'm curious if you're actually going to go back and play through a second time, because if it's not near, you never go back. So that's one thing I noticed.
Yeah, I don't usually go back to games. But yeah, I've actually thought about it a little bit. If I kind of found myself being like, man, if this game has a new game plus, I'd actually like to come back and do this part again, or to try to get. I've got most of the documents. I think there's been one document in every area that I have missed, which that first area that really pissed me off because I think I literally missed the very first document that it's at least the highest one on the list. So I assume it's the very first chronological one that you can get. And so I missed one there. I missed one in like the main facility, hospital facility. And then I missed one in an area after that. So I keep being like, dang gummit. But yeah, I might try to go back and do a bit of that or kind of poke around. Probably not a full run, but just to kind of see what it's like. Does sound intriguing to me.
All right, cool. All right, well, yeah, it's been a while since we talked about anime. I've There's not a lot new that we haven't been able like we haven't already touched on, but one thing we haven't spoken about, uh, because I've been having every time I try to watch this, something comes up and it's really funny. And it's just more like I want to watch this, but the universe doesn't want me to. Is Hamon's B side. Now, you actually originally brought this to my attention, and I kid you not, it's been at least 4 or 5 attempts to watch this, and I like what I see of it, but then uh either the kids wake up and get like in the middle of the night, someone calls me over, like I get interrupted all the time. I cannot sit through and watch a full episode of this. uh but but the parts that I end up seeing are enjoyable. So Nick, since you have actually seen more of this than I have at this point, give me a quick rundown for the people out there.
So I've only seen one episode. I hadn't actually had a chance to get back to this, but I did actually like the premise for this. So basically, protagonist is a girl, and she is a mega fan. So it's also been at least a month since I saw this, so I might be getting some things wrong. But basically, so and this is all in episode one too. So she's a mega fan of this particular um, boy band, especially this one guy in the group, and things happen, and she gets a job as like a maid or something like it, a helper at this place, and she goes in and she finds that it's. I think she actually knows that it's the guy. It's the her favorite dude from this boy band, and she goes in, and turns out that his normal persona of being like alpha handsome, can do everything, can sing and dance, and is super confident, the way he appears on TV and stuff is not the way that he is in real life. And in real life, he is like, he's the same person, but like he looks the same, but he is like a near depressive, ultra anxiety ridden, zero confidence, hiding almost under the bed, just like hiding in the corner of a dark room, totally terrified of saying the wrong thing at any given time. And so that's kind of the premise of the show, and like what she does to help him as his maid, and then also I'm sure other stuff is going to happen romantically and stuff like that. But whenever it started, I was like, okay, this is a very I was like, this is nicely drawn. I definitely noticed that the animation was pretty good, but I was like, this is pretty boilerplate otherwise. And then whenever she came into the room and he's like that, I was like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing. So I think that's the point of the name B side. Like, is that he has an A side, like an old record, has an A side with all the songs on it. But then there's a B side with the less good songs on it, but that's also a valid part of who a person is. And yeah, so just a very interesting premise, and I liked it. I did want to get back to it. I haven't had much time yet though to do so.
Yeah, the band, the idol group is called Face.
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
F
Yeah.
backslash Ace.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's the right kind of stupid. The having yeah, her going after her favorite Oshi, and having had friends who are very big into the idol, like the boy band idol scene, while living in Japan, just kind of I it hits a little harder for me because it's like I remember them talking about how difficult to get tickets were and how you had to join the club, the idol club, and then you did raffles to see if you can even buy tickets, stuff like that. It was just like a whole rigmarole. And so, you'd always apply even if you weren't actually planning on going, because you're like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and try. And then next thing you know, if you were lucky enough to win a chance to buy the tickets, we're like, well, now I have to buy the tickets. Now I have to go across country, because I just happened to win these tickets, and now I have to buy like a bullet train, and budget's thin. So whenever I see something like this where it's uh, a fangirl going after her favorite boy band, I I actually it always hits a little harder for me, and I always find it more enjoyable. But yeah, it's cute so far. It's been getting a lot of good reception, and this it's almost finished now. So at this point, but yeah, every time I've tried watching this, it's just I've been interrupted, and I'm like, I can't sit and watch the full thing, and it's just like
It's cursed.
it's kind of it kind of is, and I'm like, I'll just wait till it's finished at this rate because it's darn near at this point, anyways. Um, but yeah, it is one of the good ones. I just unfortunately never said so earlier, and just wanted to kind of bring that to light.
I'm not,
But all right.
I'm not going to talk about it at length, because pretty much because everybody else is already. But like, not anime, but am like about halfway through a little show called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. It's a spinoff for Game of Thrones, and whenever I heard about the show initially, when I first saw the previews for it, I was like, "Oh, Game of Thrones spinoff, next, no thanks." Um, but it's getting a lot of traction. It's getting a lot of critical acclaim because people are saying, and like everybody is saying, it's like really, really, really good. Even Critical Drinker, who hates everything, he really likes this show. I'm about halfway through, and I can say that it is definitely not bad, and it's been pretty good, so far overall. So anyway, I'm gonna finish that up and probably talk about that next time.
What is that on right now?
It's on HBO Max.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've only heard the name of it, and I didn't know much else about it. I didn't realize it was a spin-off of Game of Thrones. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's I mean, I can tell you this, like it's you think of Game of Thrones, you think of like grand, epic, fantasy, all this stuff. And this show a is a is a small thing. Like the whole thing is small. It's a it's a personal story about a small part of this very grand world, and but it's like very down to earth, and uh it's easy to follow, but it does it but that's not to say that it's like dumb or anything like that. It's so I can tell you that much so far. it's definitely not what you think of when you think of like Game of Thrones, I would say, in a lot of ways.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Anyway,
All right then. And now you picked out some news for us, so why don't you take it away?
I did. Um, so I guess we have a couple different things here. I couldn't quite decide what to lead off with, but I just opted to go with the uh, the I guess the notice, the little bit of news that was put out by Xbox's CEO Asha Sharma, basically announcing Xbox's Project Helix, which is their next console iteration, um, and which is like okay, that's a nothing burger. We already knew that this was going to happen eventually. Sony's already basically said they're launching the PS6. So what's important about this? But in the announcement, Sharma does mention that it is going to be able to play PC games. Doesn't really elaborate on it. They said they're going to talk more about it later, I think. But people are taking that and running with it. I I hope that it can play PC games. I am a little bit dubious as to what extent, because that doesn't necessarily mean it can play Steam games, or what kind of PC games or what. But it's definitely very interesting, and it seems like we are at the very least the gun, the shotgun to start the race to the next console has been, that race has been started, and we have basically kind of start your timeline for when all that stuff is going to start coming out. But yeah, Project Helix. I wonder if I'm thinking of a helix, and what that means for what the actual console is going to be. I guess a helix kind of is an X. Um, anyway, it's interesting, but I think people are making a bit more out of it than I initially would have. But I wanted to include it here because it's definitely kind of something for now.
Yeah, the cynic in me, the moment I heard that, I was like, is this the gotcha moment where they're like, yes, because our games are coming day one on Game Pass on, the Xbox series and on PC. So, the new Forza, it's already on PC. Gotcha. It plays PC games. It's like I
Well, I
don't
mean,
really.
well, like Xbox hasn't done anything to disabuse you of that notion recently, have they? They have not been. I mean, they haven't really been predatory exactly, but it's like they're kind of ripping out the scaffolding and not really putting out any first party games or anything like that. So yeah, I don't really blame you. I had the same. I had the exact same notion.
All right. Well, anyways, fingers crossed that it actually comes out to be competent and moves the industry forward. All right, what else do you got?
Yeah. When you cross your fingers, it's kind of a helix when you think about it. Um, all right. Next up. So I think I alluded to us talking about some other games, earlier in the podcast. Well, here we are at that point. Highguard, uh, is shutting down. It's over. It's going to be shutting down March 12th. Not next year, this year, in a couple days. They are, so a little bit of news, other news about this before we kind of talk about it is the dev team has been, quote, crunching. Poor choice of words, but they have been crunching to get the last update out. There's a bunch of content that's being pushed out essentially. Um, and the and then besides that, the director Jason McCord says that toxic positivity was not to blame for the game's failure. Um, so yeah, I'll just leave it there. I have some things that I could say, but Joe, what do you have to say about these things so far?
Lasted longer than Concord, so they aren't the fastest to go under, but they are in the front runners. Most definitely the highest of this year. But yeah. I don't know, man. I don't actually. I didn't keep touch with this at all after release. I know that when the Game Awards, they had, that this got the most news because it was the ending, the final bit, and unfortunately put it on the wrong foot. And then post release, I actually haven't heard much about it, and I really just didn't care about it because it just wasn't my type of game. It is unfortunate that they went under so fast, uh, but it's one of those things that you gotta cut your losses, and if you know that you're not going to recoup, who you trying to kid, you're just gonna, But I do feel bad for the fans who, you know, how many ever they are that put their time into it. Um, it
Uh,
has trophies, and it's always a fun mad dash to see who can get all the trophies or whatever achievements before it goes out.
the speed run to end all speed runs, the like live, like end of Edge of Tomorrow type speed run where you have no more lives left. You're literally running out of time before they shut the server down. Yeah, that's like that's all fun to joke about, but yeah, like they already laid off a bunch of their staff what a couple weeks ago or whatever. So whenever they laid off the developers, it's like, well, you're basically cut your runway. You have no more, like, you're telling us that there is no hope, because if there's no development staff, there's no more new game. This kind of game, this ongoing live service game, depends on staff to be there to, build new stuff. So it was pretty much over at that point. We were just waiting for the bottom to fall out of the or the basically um the stool to be kicked out. Um, so so yeah, this has sort of been a foregone conclusion a little bit. The game launched to like 100,000 concurrents or something pretty decent, but then everybody just logged off and never logged back on, which you can't really have, and that's what led to the layoffs. It would seem. Um, yeah, there's a lady that I was listening to on YouTube, and I forget her name, so I'm really sorry, and I can't look it up right now, but she was apparently on the dev team for Gears of War, and back in the old days, and she said that looking at the comments from the Highguard dev team, where they were basically, they did kind of seem like they had quite a bit of positivity about the game, or maybe a little bit too much. And she was commenting that when she was working on Gears of War, that the entire dev team was basically scared to death that the game was going to fail, and that they were arguing all the time, that they were fighting to keep some things in and kick other things out of the game, and they were basically just in like full panic mode, especially at the end of development. So she said that when she saw those comments, that the High Guard dev team was pretty chill about it, and they thought everything was hunky dory. That that sent up red flags to her. That, like, okay, that's not really. I mean, obviously, you don't want to feel like your world is going to end, every moment that you're making the game. But there should be a lot of back and forth, and there should be some arguments. I mean, this is a lot of money and people's livelihood that is on the line here, so there should be a good bit of that. And so the way that it made it look with the tweets and stuff like that, um, it didn't to her that was a red flag. So Jason McCord coming out saying, there was no toxic positivity. We did push back and we did try a lot of this stuff, and I'm inclined to not really believe him. I'm inclined to think that they probably did not have as much self criticism as they really needed. Um, but I also think that they put this game out in a saturated market. That, like, it's a. I mean, somebody pointed out this to me today when I was at work. A buddy of mine, we were talking about it, and he was like, he found this online. So High Guard Overwatch, like, it's like the same name, just different words. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, dang, I had not noticed that. So yeah, like it's there's I am going to be looking forward to the post-mortem video that somebody does on this game because it's going to be pretty good. I think there it's rife for content here that we could get something pretty good out of it. And yeah, it's just going to be a kind of you know, how do you put it, like a, what not to do in terms of how to release a game.
All right. Well, hopefully the next thing, that hopefully everyone does goes on to bigger and better things. But it is a rough time to do live service. And time and time again, it's been showing us that you know this is not the trend that the industry thinks it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully we'll see better.
Yeah,
All right.
you definitely take your life in your hands if you go into a live service game these days.
All right. Well, what else you got for us, man?
Okay, so next thing, this story is is not exactly new, but it's sort of being more confirmed kind of recently. So Sony is showing some dynamic pricing on their store. So basically, what this means is that you may receive, you may see a different price for a game after first signing into the PlayStation Store. So, for example, the example that they had was this one particular game. I think it was an Assassin's Creed game where it was like three and a half. It was an old Assassin's Creed game. It was like literally like £3.5 UK, and like normally on discount, so ultra discount. Um, but when this person logged in, it was 9.99, so it was higher than like the other sale that was going on, and so it was sort of an odd thing. Apparently, this was noticed first on the PlayStation Store back in November of last year, and it's only been reported for certain publishers. There's a list somewhere, so you can go find the Kotaku article that shows that. But it's only for certain publishers that it's been noted for so far. But it does speak to kind of a weirdness in like, or an ickiness, I would say, in game pricing. Like, I don't really want to be punished for like logging in and like to go buy a game that I want to buy and then seeing a higher price, or not, or like not getting, like getting a price that's like targeted to me. So it just smells kind of weird, and I don't really like it, and I kind of want to know what you thought about it.
Yeah, it's most definitely, you know, if anything, people want to see the opposite, right? They want to
Yeah.
see, oh yeah, it's because it's targeted towards me, it's on a discount. Uh, but for sure, when you're advertising something at a certain price and then the price increases, um, that does seem pretty foul,
Yeah.
and it's kind of erodes the trust, especially with the brand, whether it's the Sony's gonna get the brunt of this,
Yeah.
until they pinpoint, it's only, certain developers or whatever like that, but people don't know that. People won't know that, and so they're just gonna know it's the, PSN marketplace, and it's their fault. When you're doing the, adjusted on the fly marketing of, like, Amazon, thanks to current demand, prices now increase and fluctuate. I think that's not the right market for gaming.
Yeah.
If you have things on sale, just flatline it. This is the price on sale. This is the sale for members. Because that's what they do, right? They have if you have a PSN account, you some games will give you a little extra bump of discount. That makes sense. You signed up, you're part of the club, you get a further discount. Great. Uh, but if I'm going to look at a game, and then if you look at the same game and you and I have two different prices for that same game, or if it's region, if it's fluctuating by region, greatly. Not just currency exchange,
Mhm.
but I'm looking at something that's $20, and someone over in the UK is looking at like £30. Like that. That's a big enough difference to make it like scratch your head. Like I said, I understand when it comes to currency, but when it comes to just normal sales, you got to kind of play fair. Fans will eventually, they'll let their voices be heard if this gets out, egregious. So
So yeah, like you mentioned, like if it's discounted to you, then like, oh, that's kind of nice. So Xbox has been doing something similar in terms of dynamic pricing, but a little bit uh, more the other way of what you're talking about. They would and also something that they pointed out in the article is that Xbox, when Xbox did it, it would tag it, and it would call it just for you, and it was usually, I don't know if it was ever not this way, but it seemed to be usually a lower price. So I don't really mind that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I've logged in, looked at a game and been like, man, if that was like $3 cheaper, I would definitely buy it. You know, um, so I don't really hate that. If they're looking at my habits and stuff. I mean, if you're opted in, definitely want to be able to opt in. But if you're opted into that stuff and they're looking at your habits and they're like, we think that you would buy this game if it was a little bit cheaper, you know, and they try that with me a couple times, and I can save a buck on games that I were probably already going to buy, then I don't hate that. I'm sure there's like a monkey's paw that is like curling a finger right now, but still, it's at least on the face, I don't really mind that. So yeah, I just wanted to bring this up and keep an eye on it as it develops.
yeah, the idea of the discounts, not increasing in pricing, but the discounts for per person based off of purchase history. Like, hey, you own the entire series of a certain game. So the next iteration, we're gonna give you it's even though it's normally at full price brand new, we're gonna give you just a little extra, a couple bucks discount because chances are you're gonna buy it anyways because you own them all. That's a nice little treat for the person and a little extra incentive. Uh, you know, but yeah, most definitely let the people know that they are getting the discount, and so they can be appreciative. Um, you know, that makes perfect sense. Or like, hey, you play a lot of this genre. Here's a new one in this circuit. Maybe you want to give it a shot. You're more inclined to, especially if it's just a little bit cheaper. But yeah, we'll see how this plays out. I'm kind of curious, but for someone to log in and the price goes up from what's originally listed, um, I don't know. I'm just waiting for
So
someone to claim foul on that and be like,
so
hey, false advertising.
so
So
to be totally fair about that, like the way that it went down was the Assassin's Creed game was an old game. It was it was discounted down to 375 or whatever, and then for that person it was 999, but the 999 was still a discount based, compared to the original price. So it's like not the worst ever, but it's like it's just kind of mind-boggling, and it's like, why are you trying to screw me over when you're already trying to give everybody else a big discount? It just seems like a great way to make people mad. So just very odd.
yep, do the price checkers. Look up the PlayStation price checkers. See how the discounts have been faring, and if that's a good deal, and if that's good enough for you, don't want to pay. That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
All right. So what else you got for us, man?
A couple other things here. Runer 2 got announced, and I just wanted to bring this up because I liked Runer 1. I didn't actually get to finish it, um, but Runer 2 coming out, might make me go back and finish Runer 1. I think I'm probably about halfway through that game. So yeah, so it got announced with the reveal trailer, and they do show, this shows some story, but they also show quite a bit of gameplay. No release date yet on it, but based on the trailer, it looks like it's pretty close to. Or at least they have a good vertical slice, I would say. So it looks good. Looks very similar to the first one. One big difference though is that there are going to be multiplayer squads in this game. So Ruiner was an isometric twin stick shooter kind of game. So with a cyberpunk aesthetic. So, yeah, I put this on my wish list, and if it's not too crazy priced, then I might try to jump on it whenever it comes out.
Mm, cool. It's always fun to get an announcement that you're, for a franchise you kind of like. So,
Yeah.
all right. What else you got?
Okay, so there was a Nintendo Direct Indie World Showcase, and there's some nice enough looking games on this showcase, but the reason why we didn't lead with it, and I don't really care to talk about it too much, is because there just was really nothing on there that moved the needle for me. I mean, I went back and watched some of these things again, like some of these games again, and I'm like, that looks like an okay game. It looks like an okay game, but nothing on here was particularly um, just just nothing on here. I was like, I want to buy this, you know. So yeah. But some of the games on there look nice, and I encourage you to
It
go.
started off with a banger, dude. Like Densha Attack. That game looks amazing for what it is. It's the right kind of stupid. It is totally in line with you know, Switch style gameplay. It's the So for those who don't know, Densha Attack, look up the trailer. It's essentially a you're riding on a train that is both a train, skateboard, surfboard, any kind of board. It lands on a drone so you can fly. You're going against kaiju, other phenomenon. It is the just like off pun intended, I guess now off the rails kind of game. Uh, it is yes. I'll kick the stool out from underneath you, Nick. Don't worry.
Thank
Just
you.
make sure that's the knot is tight. Um, but yeah, that is most definitely uh, it has the cell shadedness. It kind of reminds you of Jet Set Radio, and with the right kind of soundtrack to it, it's all right. I think this would be a good time, and it's probably one of the strongest games in the lineup. They
Easily,
followed it with
easily the
yeah.
strongest game in the lineup. But yeah.
Well, I mean, they followed it up with My Little Puppy about your corgi who's dead and then smells you. And so therefore is trying to go through the afterlife hunting its master who apparently is dead now too. So lucky for this guy, all dogs go to heaven and therefore is going to save him. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
I don't know, it's supposed to be chill, I guess, but it's just a kind of a whimsical little adventure.
yeah. The Densha attack, or I think it's pronounced Densha attack, because I think it's supposed to be one word, but
It is.
uh, Densha means train in Japanese, if you haven't picked up on the pun yet. So anyway, yeah, I saw that and I was like, that looks all right. It didn't look bad. Like nothing on here looks bad, but it just didn't really grab me. And so I was like, we could, but I didn't. But with one game, I didn't really want to really go into it. But it seems that we have now, and there are some other games on there that we could. There's
Well, you're a Moonlighter fan, so the sequel of that came out.
Yeah, but like that's like a
Yeah.
known thing, and it's not like that's a known thing. It's been out on early access, and it's going to be on Steam and stuff like that. So it's not worth it, for a Nintendo thing.
Yeah, a lot of these things are, also some ports and stuff like that because the Midnight Walk's getting ported over.
Hmm.
They have this, uh, like adventure shooter literally called Mini Shoot Adventure. I would like it so much more if it wasn't a spaceship as your main character. Like the way you're moving, it's like a top-down view, kind of like the old Legend of Zelda, uh, and it's a bullet hell kind of game, but
Yeah,
your character and models are all spaceships or like our ships. And I'm like, well, I just just give me like sprites of people or something silly and stupid. It reminds me of like the Toho games. So give me a character that's a witch or something like that. Give me I don't know, almost anything else. I just kind of don't like the actual ship icons themselves, but it's most definitely a game that I would play. Um, there was a couple of them, a lot, it's like that we've already known about, mixtape. A lot of people have a lot of love for mixtape. The vibe that it gives. This is that like 1990s skateboarding, story based adventure, and I am not really anticipating much from it. Um,
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
that's what,
there are games I wish I liked.
uh, the the one that I was also probably one of the ones I was most or like really curious about, I should say, is Blighted.
Oh yeah,
Blighted is by Drinkbox, the guys who did Guacamelee. They also did Severed.
I
So
remember that Guacamole coming up on that game, and I was like, oh, Joe might be interested in this.
yeah, when they mentioned Blighted, I'm like, wait, wasn't that the other title they came? I'm like, no, I had to look it up. I'm like, oh, Severed. Severed was the Vita game.
I
It was
remember
like a Vita
Severed.
exclusive
Yeah,
originally. Yeah, it was unique, but it was like a first person adventure, like kind of dungeon crawler. But it wasn't. I mean, I gave them props for trying something different.
yeah.
Uh, Not 100% sure if I like the aesthetic of Blighted, but I'm willing to give them a shot on if this comes out on something other than the Switch
I
2.
was gonna say, is this gonna get you to buy a Switch too?
Yeah. Um, you know, they mentioned a few other things that, like a roguelike called Dead Zone Rogue. I'm like, okay, that's just, um I don't know, there wasn't a whole lot else that was really in except for they had that in Kombini.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like it's a Konbini like life sim game. But one of the stupid things is as you're restocking the shelves, they did it. It was just a quick like 1 second thing. They had a cow on the box, and you rotate it so you can see and then the next box was the body of the cow, and then you rotated all of it so it had the cow head and a long body over like 3 cartons, and then the final carton you turned it so it was the tail. So I'm like, it was stupid, but I was like, yeah, that's they know their kind of humor and they kind of have it for being quaint. Um, and Japanese convenies are kind of great. So
They are.
I yeah, I'm kind of curious about the game itself. Um, I don't remember much about Outbound. Um, and then there was Ratatan, which was like a Patapon like if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm remembering incorrectly, but that's
I
fine.
think that's right though.
And then like one of the biggest things that their final thing was Blueprints coming over. But yeah, it was like some ports. Totem 2 coming out. It's just like I actually have Totem 1 on my PlayStation, just downloaded, ready to go. Never actually played it, but it's just installed
It's
just in case, because
okay.
you know. But yeah, I mean, it is kind of what it is. It's it was short, sweet, like not even 20 minutes long. I was like, all right, cool. No, not a lot of fluff.
You were just glad that it was short. I mean, I guess that's one good thing about it. It doesn't spend a
It
lot
wa
of
like,
time.
they could have put in a bunch of developer talk and fluffed it out, but I'm like, "No, no, you just kept it concise,
Okay.
just games for the most part." Um, not all of them for me, but there's a little bit of something for everybody, and, they're still not a system seller yet, not until the first party stuff. I just really hope a lot of these come out on multi-platform. That's kind of my big thing. I'm like, "That's a good" like, Densha Attack? Yeah. I want that to be PC or PlayStation, uh, mobile. I don't care. I'm like, I just give it to me on something else other than the Switch 2. But if it's Nintendo only, well, darn. Uh, that's
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those kind of games probably come out, after some kind of timed release, or timed exclusive or whatever. So, um, hopefully though, hopefully those will come out so you can buy them without having to get a Switch too.
yeah. All right. And then what's that? You got one final thing for us?
Yeah, one last little thing. So there was also a Capcom showcase. I peeked through that. I didn't watch it hardcore, but I did peek through it, and they start out with Pragmata. Um, they show us trailer for it, like a full final trailer, and which I don't need to watch because I'm definitely gonna buy that game. But they notably they did move the release date up to April 17th from April 24th. So they moved it up 1 week, which is interesting. Don't usually see that very often, but I'm glad to have it because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out in April and May and June. And so I'm glad to kind of have that spread out just a little bit as well. I wanted that game to be a little bit earlier, so I'm glad it is. So yeah, excited to play that. Besides that, with the showcase, they also did updates to Mega Man Dual Override, Onimusha, so a bunch of Street Fighter stuff, and Monster Hunter Stories 3. So probably something else in there that I missed as well, but nothing in terms of like, hey, brand new release. Here's what we're working on. This is going to be crazy. Nothing, you haven't seen this before. So yeah, that's kind of why wanted to kind of glaze over that.
Yeah, it's kind of it was the Mega Man one was kind of funny because they showed like uh some art for some of the new enemy designs.
That did look cool.
Kind
I
of fun.
I, I, did, I was like, I want that. I want to get that in the
But
game.
it's funny. They have a maid, a robot maid, but they call her instead of traditionally all the characters are named something something man, Mega Man, Proto Man, Cut Man, Guts Man, so this was Sweeper Woman. And I'm like, she's not a maid, she's a sweeper, I guess, because she's her arms are vacuum. And then there's Recycle Man, Cactus Man, Juggle Man, and then a fire hydrant, allegedly, but it's Valve Man, not Fireman, because he looks like a fireman. But like I'm like that. It was just
That
silly
might
and
be a
stupid.
Japanese thing where they always call them valves, like sorry, what valve desu, like maybe that's sort of what's going on.
It could be, but at the same time, there's been fire based, and so if you say fireman, like it'd be fire element, but it's a water ellie, obviously.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the concept of that as well. And I just found it to be silly because he looks like a fireman. You'd think fireman, but at the same time, it kind of plays itself. They had to change it up because it's a dude who shoots water. But no,
Okay.
I like the character designs. I'm a big Mega Man fan. I'm never really that great at them, but it's long and dear, series to my heart. So I'm like, yeah, for sure. Yeah, outside of that though, I didn't really see much else. I mean, they talked a little about the Mega Man Star Forces. They did Monster Hunter Stories 3, and I was like, all right. I didn't actually even know this happened until you mentioned it. So I was like, all right, I got to check this out now. And once again, it was kind of, just hit on these few topics. I'm still kind of on the fence for the Onimusha. I never had that love of Onimusha as other people had. It was a neat franchise, but I just kind of wasn't, it just wasn't my cup of tea. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
think they seem to be doing something right with it. I mean, it looks good. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on it. I will probably buy it. I don't know when it actually is coming out, off the top of my head, but looks like it'll be pretty good. So, barring some sort of like big reason to not buy it, I'll probably jump in on it because it looks pretty cool.
let's see. Capcom released let's see, talking about the new overview trailer. Yeah, the only thing they mentioned here is it's supposed to come out for all for Onimusha, PlayStation 5, Windows, PC, Xbox Series X. Uh, just sometime in 2026.
Yeah,
So no real deadline for that.
yeah, that,
But yeah,
yeah. Okay.
okay, guys. Yeah, this has been a little bit of shorter one for us today, but
Oh, nice.
don't worry, we'll end up going on our high rates later. I know uh, Nick has finished a series or two, and he wants to talk about them when we get more time. So
Yeah, I've got some stuff on the back burner. I can tell you, I got a couple. I got at least one game and a couple series and of shows and stuff like that. So yeah, there's gonna be more coming.
all right, guys. Well, if you made it this far, we appreciate it. This has been ADP episode 167. Nick, what are some words of wisdom you have for the people out there?
Um, if you're gonna go into Iran, you better have a plan.
I thought you were going to go haiku there for a second. I was waiting for the drop, but you failed me on that.
Well, I had to pronounce Iran correctly. Let me redo it. If you're gonna go into Iran, you better have a plan. It's not a haiku, but it does rhyme.
Okay, guys. Well, until next time, this is ADP. Y'all take it easy.
Bye. Bye.